And then they have come for Rockstar. Oof, what a shame. How y'all doing, folks? It is I, the Bane of the Woke, the Harbinger of Harridans, the Mad Shogun, RealAaronAlexander. And today, this one hurts, people. I wouldn't say this is the death of a franchise, but it's sort of like, it's in critical condition, okay? I'm not gonna write its death notes until the actual game comes out. We get more details, but it's not looking good here, folks. Now, article has come out on just yesterday saying that that Rockstar, they decided that I think Take-Two has decided to chase the ESG grift, and all of a sudden turn Rockstar Games into another BioWare. Ugh. It's bad enough with one continuing folly. Now we're going to have a new folly. And this hurts because Rockstar was one of my favorite developers at its heyday. Now, sorry if the damn air conditioner is drowning out a lot of the shit, but like I said, I figured why not make a video, and it's starting to get hot here in Chicago. By the way, a couple things before we continue on to the video. Sorry I haven't been making any videos as of late because all last week we've been doing showings for the house. Now there has been a buyer, and the official date of me leaving Chicago is going to be August the 19th. And as always, things can change. The whole thing could be subject to change, so yeah. So I'll try to come out with some videos as best as I could. There's a couple other things that I want to talk about as we lead up to the big move. But today is what really hurts. Okay. So this comes in the service of the New York Post, and it seems Rockstar got a complete overhaul. It's full of freaking wokies now, and now they're gonna put in a female Latina protagonist, which I really don't have a problem with. But if you know how writers have been writing in the last few years, they've been writing women. They use what I like to call the strong female woman archetype, or better known to us guys, known as the Mary Sue archetype. Which means they basically characterize tokenism. And that's just insulting. I mean, no one's identity has or never or ever will be a character. Okay? Yeah, there's some side characters in the past that were caricatures of an identity, like the whole parade gay archetype you saw like in the 80s and 90s, until all of a sudden that's been deemed problematic by the woke scolds. But this shows a much bigger problem within the gaming industry, okay? And we'll talk about it after we take a look at the details of the article here. So now they did confirm that GTA 6 will be set in Florida, my future home, but more specifically South Florida. But here's what really gets screwballed here. Here he goes. Rockstar Games are abandoning the series' record of making crude, potentially offensive jokes about minority groups. The developers are being cautious not to punch down at the expense of such groups. That is just stupid. You see, why do you think people like Dave Chappelle are still popular, despite being canceled like 50,000 times already? It's because people like offensive jokes. I mean, as Carlos Mencia once put it especially to homosexuals, if you can take a dick, you can take a joke. And that's the problem. The problem is the woke's definition of humor, let's just say it's a perversion of humor. I mean, just look at who's that? Oh, Hannah Gadsby, that fucking fucking them. They came up with her so-called standard routine. Listen, you want to know what passed for wokies as comedy? Just check out that shit. It's called Nanette, I believe. Very unfunny, but for some reason it won all these fucking awards. I mean, it felt because I saw like a few minutes of that show. It felt more like a goddamn TED Talk. Ugh. Listen, I don't go to a comedy show to listen to TED Talks, okay? If I want to, the thing is, social commentary is okay, but the thing here is, you gotta be funny about it. I mean, Dave Chappelle pulled it off, and George Carlin pulled it off. So, I came to see a comedy show. I'm here to laugh, not be lectured to by someone who probably's got like daddy issues up the ass and doesn't even know what playpen smelled the worst when they were 3. But anyway. But yeah, so it seems like the woke have done something that Jack Thompson couldn't. They basically destroyed GTA. They basically destroyed Rockstar, and like I said, all they had to do was infiltrate the industry. Just like they've been doing the last decade or so. You know, large march through institutions and shit. But one Twitter user basically said, "You will treat women and people of color with respect while running them over the tank." Well, actually, I think that was sort of a joke there, but that's still. You see, you basically took the fun out of it, and like I said, this isn't the first. It's not going to be the last. And the reason I'm talking about this here is they also mentioned. I think it was in a Bloomberg article made by a crier of all people. Basically said the culture's pretty much changed at Rockstar. It's not the frat boy culture it was. In other words, it resembles a fucking Starbucks. So yeah. And the writing was on the wall because we've been getting reports over the last several years. A lot of key players in Rockstar has flew the coop. First, it was Leslie Benzies who left in 2014. I think it was drummed out by Zelnick. And then after Red Dead Redemption 2, Dan Houser and Laszlo flew the coop as well. So again, I've been saying this for several years. Either GTA 6 isn't happening, or it's going to be a watered-down, probably woke mess like Saints Row is. Like Saints Row's become. Now, the question I have to ask is, I wonder if Anita Sarkeesian paid Strauss Zelnick a visit, and which triggered all this shit happening. But I would say yes and no. Probably no because this has been the leitmotif among major corporations nowadays. Is the fact that ESG has become a plague throughout corporate America. So, in order to get a higher score, you basically have to preach to the woke gods. So the cult has pretty much taken over almost every aspect of our capitalist system, which will, or should I say, corporatist system, which now it's going to probably resemble China. Okay. So what you're seeing here, in my opinion, is what's happening with the comic book industry. And if this is the route that video game companies are going, the mainstream companies, it's not going to end so well for them. And I've been hearing, and of course they're saying, well, the indies are going to save us. Well, I think we're a long way away from it. Because I did make a comment with Games Nosh. You know, Games Nosh is a good dude. I like him. He followed my original Nameless One account, and he did say that he said something that I really didn't agree with here. He said that GTA 6 will be okay. You'll probably have a decent amount of fun with it. No, I won't. But it won't be the same GTA that made you fall in love with the series. It'll be GTA viewed through a post-2020 video game industry lens with all the cultural baggers and pressures that bring. Now, that statement I could agree with. Now, the thing here is, I don't like that state, all right? Because that's our culture right now. Now, we've been saying for years that politics is downstream from culture. The culture has turned to shit. I mean, it's now arguably it is split into two factions. You have your based red pill culture that basically wants to have fun again, while the other, well, they're all just craptivistic. They just want to diddle your kids and pretty much throw you onto death row for misgendering somebody. But unfortunately, with the mainstream culture nowadays, it's fallen more on the woke ladder, and in order to change that culture, you have to do what was doing. And like I said before in the video, we're talking about the Ripaverse, and a lot of these and by the way, congratulations to Eric July for getting up to about 3.2, maybe 3.3 million dollars. And I hope I wonder if this thing grew up. I think what happened is the whole PayPal thing has put a damper on it. Yeah, this is what we're talking about here, folks. If they can't get you through gatekeeping, they're going to get you through the payment processors. Now, wisely, for all our domestic payment processing here in America, he stayed away from PayPal. But internationally, you really don't got a lot of options. So he had no choice. He decided to go to PayPal. And then, of course, they froze $1.3 million of his international sales. And it looks like they're going to go to court for it. Yeah, go check out that video. I'm going to put the video in the video description. But I also got to say that video has gotten, well, a little over 400 views, I believe. Hold on, let me check it. I gotta open a new window here. All right. Because I did not expect that. I did not expect, with Mama Susan still trying to suppress my reach and everything like that. I did not expect like this to break 400 views. So for those of you who did check out my video on the Ripaverse, I like to thank you for it, because I think that shows there's still people that are doing amazing work out there that still believe in the cultural shift that we're trying to bring about. Which brings me back to the discussion right here. I did make a reply to Games Nosh twice, one to Velvkoon and another to Games Nosh himself. Okay. Now, in my reply, I basically said it's the same consumer BS you can expect from West AAA gaming. So basically, it's simple. Don't ask questions, just consume product and be excited for next products. And I've also now this one when I think got Games Nosh's attention here. I said that gaming and culture in general will need to have the same dissident movement as comics has right now. Culture, the Iron Age that Razofist has been talking about, it needs to go global here, okay? Now it's happening in comics, and I'm predicting within the next year, tabletop RPG, the tabletop community will have that same dissident movement. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in the grand scheme of things, comics and tabletop games, they're pretty cheap to make. When it comes to entertainment, they're pretty much the cheapest to make. I mean, you could probably put together like $30,000 to maybe $60,000 price range for a single graphic novel, and it will sell like fucking, and then you're good to go. The overhead to making a tabletop RPG or tabletop game or a comic book or any graphic novel, the overhead is pretty cheap. All right? So that's why the industry is more open towards dissident movements like what we're going through now with the Rippaverse, with Comicsgate, with Razorfist Night Vale series. All right, and like I said, pretty soon we're going to be talking a little bit about the tabletop RPG, the upcoming boom. I'm going to say, I'm hoping I'm thinking it might happen next year, 2 years at the most, because like again, these types of games are relatively cheap on the overhead. I mean, you already have the OSR movement going on in games. That's sort of like your Comicsgate movement, and of course there's three figures to pay attention to. Taylor Lane, who put together the OSR supplemental jam, and it's become, and thanks to another figure, he's gotten pretty freaking popular. I mean, yeah, he considers himself agendered, but he doesn't use his identity to push his products, which is a good thing. And like I said, we always appreciate those who just likes to concentrate on games, okay? And another figure of the OSR realm is, of course, RPG Pundit, who I've talked about immensely. Like I said, and I've always said that his stuff is the gold standard when it comes to OSR. So you do need to check it out. And then you have Venger Satanis, who does sort of I would like to say Lovecraftian type horror themed OSRs or something like that. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know if it's horror per se, but it's more. But that aesthetic fits this well. And besides, he does look a lot like, and the guy looks a lot like Kane from Command and Conquer. So it sort of fits that aesthetic. So he's got that going for him. So shout out to all three of these lads. But we also have some more stuff for you in the tabletop realm, and not necessarily OSR. I want to clarify because the monk got a little snippy at me about this when I start shilling his upcoming stuff that him and Xanatrix is doing. So, but he's doing a I believe sort of a Final Fantasy inspired tabletop, which I'm hoping it'll be coming within the next year or so. I don't know how far they're into development with it, but they've been pretty hush hush, and rightly so. You don't want to give a lot of stuff. You don't want to give a lot of your trade secrets away. And then you have Erudite of Geeks and Gamers, who's just put Geeks and Gamers through the tabletop lens, and I think Ryan Kinnell's been joining a couple of their streams, and he's going to be doing a tabletop game of his own. And of course, you have me with me doing my Ronin stuff, which, by the way, my aim right now is after I move to Florida and get settled, like get myself a car, upgrade the computer and what have you, I am going to go back to work on Ronin. Straight up. After I get all that shit settled in Florida, we're going back to Ronin immediately. Okay? So I'm going to be talking to my artists, Pablo Romero, Nick Trinidad, and also might have to talk to him about using an alternate processor, because after that shit with Eric July, I really don't trust PayPal at this moment, because with what I'm afraid is going to happen is I'm going to pay him a decent amount of money, and then PayPal wouldn't give it to them. That's what I'm worried about there, folks. But anyway, getting back on point here, Game Janash did respond to me about that aspect, and he basically, I would say he threw a few black pills my way, but he's not wrong here, okay? I'm not saying he's wrong here. He's completely right, because he basically told me that you're not going to find that change in AAA space right now, which is true. It's a lot of corpos dominate that space right now, and they're all trying to compete for the highest ESG score. And he even says that the indies are also culture homogenous. Yeah, you have a lot of the gaming space is run by fucking wokies, especially indies. Now, there are a few good developers out there. I'm not going to say otherwise. Now, the western side of the industry right now, it's pretty fucked right now. Okay? Your best bet is anything coming from Japan, and I don't think I don't know how long they're going to hold out because now they're pushing ESG bullshit over in Japan. But I don't know what's going to happen there because you do have a lot of publicly traded companies in Japan that are supposedly Japanese developers. But the problem here is, if you're a publicly traded company, you are subjected to ESG rules, and if you don't follow said ESG rules, you're not going to get the big bonuses and the BlackRock money. So we're going to see what happens with that as time goes on. But let's just say it's not going to be that future isn't going to be looking rosy. So eat, drink, and be merry, especially if you're reading manga and playing shit like Elden Ring. Yeah, eat, drink, and be merry, because that shit's going to be going away. That shit will be going away. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but the ESG siren call cannot be ignored. All right? Now GameSmash further elaborated that it's going to come from the East, be Eastern Europe or Asia, and he has no confidence that such a game could get made in front of the U.S. or Western Europe today. Now, that statement, right now, that's true, because here's why I think the gaming industry is insulated from any dissident movements right now. As much as the Iron Age dissidents are starting to get their feet wet in this thing, we don't got a lot of money in the world right now. Everything with the Rippaverse, it's pretty much as good as it gets so far. I mean, but then again, you know what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. I mean, it'll be a while before that type of money that Rippaverse gets becomes the norm. Your average crowd fund for these projects range up from about $30,000 to $60,000, if that. No. I take that back. I would say more $10,000 to $60,000. Some of them rarely ever break six figures, which surprises me that Martina Markota put out Mutus Liber, and I'm surprised that hit $60,000, despite the fact she's been getting shadow banned to hell and back. And by the way, congratulations to her for getting the proof of Mutus Liber. And she's looking over the proof by now, but that pretty much shows all the haters that there's an actual product. So anything from Martina Markota that she promotes, this is going to be a great sign for any of her upcoming projects. Now, the problem with gaming facing a dissident movement is games are very, very expensive to make. Okay, we're talking tens of millions of dollars at on average. So the bottom line here is so it's going to take a few years. I would say 5, optimistically, it'll be 5 years. And mentioned this in response to GameSmash. I basically say at best, gaming is right now where comics was 5 years ago. And comics 5 years ago was the whole the Make My Milkshake bullshit that triggered the beginning of Comicsgate. Now, I think this dissident movement will hit it big by the end of this decade. But for it to go by optimistic 5-year time frame, the movement has to start now. Okay? Now, I would go over my plans for Ronin because it will eventually evolve going into the gaming sphere. But for right now, I'm going to leave that for a separate video for the future, especially when I start talking about Ronin and all its and any future prospects. And what I want to do for Ronin though is I'm probably going to be looking over the Rippaverse's website, because I might now the plan right now is I want to do both a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo campaign. But unfortunately, with how they're run and how easily you can get shut down by say if some fucking some ginger weasel decides to shut you down and challenge you to fight me in real life. I got the leprechaun hands. And then because that kind of shit will happen, especially if your project gets any attention. So going forward, I think it behooves me, and for those who create, it's going to behoove you to pay attention to Eric July's approach to how he's funding his thing. Now, he doesn't say it's a crowdfund because most of the stuff's already done, but it's doing pre-orders, and it's worked out pretty well. And I think going forward, that's going to have to be due. You're going to have to do your due diligence on payment processors. You might have to make your own website, etc. But I think that people need to start looking at the model right now, because if we're gonna get any more popular, if we're gonna start pissing in the wokies culture pool and thus affecting the politics downstream, we got to be very smart about this shit. I mean, we sure work hard, but work smart. Because let me tell you something. You have to realize you have to put your best foot forward when it comes to this shit. Just like Razofist said in this video, and I'll post that in the video description as well here. Man. So yeah, you're gonna have to put your best foot forward. But luckily, if you're at least average at your shit, you can probably beat out these CalArts rejects easily. So it's a great time. It's a great time in culture. This is the beginning, and I think we're at the ground level of something huge. Welcome to the Iron Age, people. And as for Rockstar, what a shame. But then again, with the departure of legendary figures like Leslie Benzies, Stan Hauser, and Laszlo Jones, well, this was a long time coming. So, gamers, you might have to just stick with old games for a while. Just play your old Final Fantasy games, play Elden Ring or what have you, because for right now, it's going to be a dark winter when it comes to video games. Now, I wonder how Grump's Ember project is going. Or you know what? Play No Man's Sky. Yeah, because that's pretty much the only thing that, in my opinion, that's going really well right now. So, but that's all I gotta say about that. So yeah, see, I'll try to get more videos out to you before I get out of Chicago. So, until the next video, take care of yourselves.